Okay, looks like we're live. LinkedIn, YouTube. Right. Thank you all for joining us today to talk about something that is all over the news, Mythos. And Mythos is also known as Project Glasswing. And the reason it's called Project Glasswing is because instead of releasing out to the public, specific group of system providers will have access to Mythos first, so that way they can patch things and move forward with the security that we currently don't have. The security that we will need in order to really harden the systems, in order to protect the systems from the bad actors. So both side is equally are anticipating lots of changes, both the cyber defenders and the cyber criminals. Because for the cyber criminals, this is another set of tools that adds to their arsenal. So cyber defenders having access to it in an early stage does make the cyber defender's job a little bit more easier. So if you're out there as a journeyman or apprentice that are in the cybersecurity space, I applaud you, and I think this is a very much a learning point that you will have to really reutilize over and over, because this is not a new problem. This is something that's been happening for a very long time. We've seen this before. So if you're familiar with CVEs and CVDs, critical vulnerability, coordinated vulnerability disclosures, we've seen this before, right? But this one feels different because this one has a smell of actual gas, and it could burn a lot of systems down. We're already seeing a lot of these capabilities that has been showcasing themselves for the last 3 years. But last 3 years just as a flashpoint based on last 50 years of cybersecurity vulnerabilities. Not everybody gets impacted by cybersecurity incidents, but when they do, they know how difficult it is to get out of it. So instead of going through what Mythos and Glasswing is, let's talk about something that if you're listening and you can take action on for, say, next 3 hours or 3 days or 30 days, right? Now, if you know me, I'm a practitioner who discusses these topics for non-technical users, right? Because I really care about non-technical user safety, security, and privacy. Our job is far more easier if a non-technical user, such as an executive, leaders, or that shop floor man, any individual that is on the end user side using technology and using it with safety, security, and privacy in mind for everybody. And when you say everybody, that means yourself included. If you do things safely and securely and privately with privacy in mind, you actually protect the system for everybody else. So there's some things that I would like to talk about in the doing phase, because knowing wise, you can type in Project Glasswing and research it for hours and hours, possibly find some ground where you think will be a personal impact to you. So now at that point, you have to do something. So that question that comes up, like, what can I do, is what I will talk about today. And of course, this is not the full length that we will talk about today. We'll give you something to think about until next Monday, possibly, because in next Monday, 11 a.m. Central Standard Time, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we do our podcast. In our podcast, we talk about some of the things that you can do, some of the things that you should be thinking about, right? So one of the things that is you listen to it and you say, like, well, see if what makes sense is that I start protecting myself against mythos, right? So if you want to protect yourself against mythos type of attacks, I think you can do few things, but one thing that I can say is that if you can grow that practice of doing things the way you do things today, because of now you see mythos as a threat. Mythos could bring your workflow down, mythos can bring your VPN down, mythos can even interrupt the way you enjoy Netflix in Malaysia, right? It can impact so many ways, because mythos impacts about 5 billion devices if the wolf SSL problem is not solved in the days and weeks to come. Wolf SSL, you can look that up as well. Wolf SSL is part of that conversation about Open BDS and FFmpeg. right? So some of the things that you can do today in the next 3 days, I don't want it to be very specific where you just do it for the next 3 days and next 30 days and never do it again. I believe if you do this for the next 30 days, you should turn that into a habit as part of your business process for the rest of your organization. And if you do this for the rest of your organization, you not only create a change in their organization that is sustainable, but it's also scalable. And I will tell you how. So 5 minutes from now, I want to understand that what I'm talking about is your daily operations and your business intelligence. And your business intelligence, people tend to think through business intelligence, think of it like ERPs and ECCs, sales and distributions and things of that nature. I want to even push that a little bit further. I want you to think about it from the cyber defense posture as well. So when you have a cyber defense and those cyber defense tools that you use, they should not be different from your BI tools because having similarities in tools and having it all aggregated into one place could be visual for human could be visually pleasing for the human eyes. So MD files is something that I would like to bring to your attention, and the reason is you want to capture the baseline of your current status, because one of the things that you might think about mythos as is that apocalypse, right? There's a spectrum of way of thinking about mythos. It's an apocalypse that's coming and it's going to take down everything. Or you can think of it from a sneakiest way possible, that it will change the way you do business in a negative way, right? As in, mythos can, over time, take things away from you that you will say, well, I had this information, but I just don't know where it is now. And if I don't have that information, what happens to my future business process? And there's many ways you can think about this one. Which one of those ways is we talk about as a world map, right? It's a world map of an AI system that understands your business. And because it understands your business, it's supposed to help you not drift you away from where the profit margin is or where the revenue is. So the mythos, these MD files and business intelligence, one of the ways you want to do that is understand the baseline. So this is something that you can do for your business, for your coworkers, for your colleagues, for your office space, for your family. If you have, kids at home, you can probably have 30 devices plugged into your router. So you want to start seeing a visual of your current as is state, right? And you can do that as like I said, 3 hours or 3 days from now, or even 30 days, but do it periodically where you can capture a baseline of the activities that are happening within your network, within your routers, within maybe the switches that you have, if you do use switches, the computers and devices that you have, what are sort of some of the activities that they're engaging on. So if you ever look up a funny story about the washer and dryer in somebody's home was sending 30 megabytes worth of data to an unknown location, why was that system sending 30 megabytes of data? It's very suspicious. But the reason people found out is because they were scanning their home. So if you can scan your business, if you can scan the devices that you're using, put that on MD file. And these MD files, again, if you heard me say this MD file 10 years ago, everybody would have said, Asif, that's just not feasible. That's not something even necessary because of the amount of work it creates. But because of large language model like Claude and Chatbot, Gemini, these MD files are your uh, I don't want to go too technical here, but you can also imagine there's a memory shortages, there's a RAM shortages, there's CPU shortages, all kinds of shortages of hardwares. These MD files becomes your life-saving alternatives. So you can do these things very easily overnight, like I said, in 3 hours or next 3 days, and continuously monitor this MD file for the purposes of growing and understanding your baseline and see the differences 60 days from now, right? 90 days from now. Because if you create this MD file practices, one of the things that you will see is where are the usages going up and where are the usages dropping off, right? Because if the usage is dropping off, that means the impact on the devices is what's causing the chaos within your organizations. Say, for example, you had revenue there last year, all of a sudden this revenue is disappearing, the cost centers are disappearing. Things that are visible to you 6 months ago, all of a sudden it's no longer visible. And the reason they're not visible is not because of a single strike, but strikes that happens over time. MD files, like I said, it's a cybersecurity tools that you can use that is on your own control. So you control the full stack of MD files. These MD files are literally few kbs. All it has is a text. It has nothing really that you have to draw out or map out. You never even have to open this MD files if you open it correctly, if you use it correctly. What will happen is that you will have access to this MD files, and the large language model system will continuously update these MD files on your behalf as you say update these MD files from the devices like or software like ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini. So this MD files really revolutionizes the way you do business today, but it also keeps a tab on as is state. So if you start with this practice of MD files, you can sustain this MD file operations for rest of your organization, for rest of the devices, rest of the business process, things that are really outside of your control. Um, MD file is also something that is very useful for any and every users. It's just like almost writing an email. Everybody can read it as long as they understand the language. So you can write it in as many languages as you like. So you can send it to as many language users as you like. It just changes the process. So the baseline understanding of what's happening, this baseline that we talked about of understanding the systems and what the systems are doing, one of the reasons this is important that you start with this practice is because you have a token usage. So if you watch some of our previous discussions around Jensen Wong's mentioning how tokens are going to impact your day-to-day operations, how do you keep an eye on those token usage, and how do you keep an eye on token usage that are explosively growing or not growing fast enough, or if they grow, they're just kind of going into nuisance use cases, right? So this token usage is also something that you can track with MD files. So MD files, like I said, once you automate it, it's a wealth of knowledge that becomes your business intelligence core product. And the best part about MD files is that it doesn't cost a penny, right? If you can open a Word document, you can open a text edit document. You can open an MD file document. You can open any files and folders. It all lives inside of your desktop, and it doesn't cost you a penny. But what it does cost you is the way you think about your business process and the data that you collect for your businesses. So, in another word, it's the knowledge management side of things that you can transfer to your next person that you have a succession for, or training somebody for the specific process or workflow. Of course, you know about a lot of these projects and products that are out there that are in silos. Now you have a single point where everybody can read the same document and just have enough knowledge to do their task and jobs and whatever it is. I intend to make this video as short as possible. I was planning on doing it for 10 minutes, but looks like I might, hit it on the 15 minutes mark. But like I talked about right now, the MD files and the tokens, right? These MD files practices will drive your businesses into a secure spot because of it's an alternative to shortages that we are dealing with today with CPUs and memories, even GPUs at one level or another. But the point is that you're going to use a lot of token, no matter what the point, what the shortages of the hardwares are. You are going to use tokens in the future state of your business, and this is a good practice to get behind in order to capitalize and get the best return on investment, return on data for this token usage. So before I jump off, the last topic I want to talk about is that your ability to capture KSA. So right now, your organization, yourself, including everybody else, have a knowledge, skills, and ability. And these knowledge, skills, and abilities are shifting towards these MD files and token usage, right? Because the business intelligence costs lots of money. Business intelligence costs lots of money once the knowledge has disappeared. And think about it like this from this perspective. If somebody was to take over your system, they take over your system's files and folder structure. If your file and folder structure is where your all knowledge lives, so all the money spent on BI systems to do your CRM, to do your sales and distributions, your ARAPs, all of a sudden they disappear with those files and folders. So you have an MD file that could be an alternative source for these abilities that you're developing and spending so much money on in order to keep your business afloat, sustainable, and scalable. So here's the key to that. The MD files are the one that you can train your organization, yourself, and your individual that is near you, like in second, third degrees. Give them these knowledge and skills and abilities to do business differently, do their daily operations differently, so that way the catastrophe that will deal with becomes an opportunity. So never let disaster go to waste, right? This could be a disaster, but we also can learn how to do different business in different ways. So that way we actually have the knowledge base, that's competitive edge because our people are more versed in how to use AI, the capabilities of AI, their skills are changing. And of course, the ability shifts with those knowledge and skills that we provide. So I'm going to leave it right here. I know it's a little bit over 15 minutes. I try to do it under 10 minutes, but next Monday we will have a total 45 minutes long discussions. We keep this between, less than 45 minutes because we know everybody's so busy, really don't have time to research and do all these different things. But if we can get those information to you ahead of time, so that way you're not necessarily being blindsided, that's the goal. So keeping it short, keeping it fast, and keeping it moving with few topics is the goal. So we will see you next week on Monday at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time to discuss further on what are some of the things that you have to keep an eye on for next 30 days. Ciao.